Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today, Fountain Pen Focus Day. We're going to focus on the Majohn M8. Yeah, it's got quite a lot of sparkle in there, hasn't it? What we're going to do is take a look at the pen. We'll do some size comparisons, weights and measures, a writing sample, and then I'll give you my thoughts and scores on this pen. Here we are down on the table. Here we've got the pen, the Majohn M8. I'm just going to turn this around so you can see the body. So it's mainly black. We've got these very shiny silver blobs, but there's also some smaller like silver specks in there as well. So when you actually look at it, it's fairly complex. To me, it reminds me of the night sky. You know, you're looking at it and you've got the stars twinkling. Obviously not as many, but that's what it really brings to mind for me. Let's take a walk through the body. So we start at the top of the cap. We've got a domed end. The entire pen, a bit like a cigar type shape. So we've got this dome at the top. This then curves out until we get to the top of the clip. The clip, it goes into the body, and the clip looks like there might be a lever. That doesn't work very well. The clip itself, very tight, not springy at all. Doesn't bother me. I very rarely use clips. The clip's got an interesting shape. Rather than being straight, it's got that it curves in a bit, then we come out, and then we curve back down, and then start to curve out again. It's a bit like an undulation. That's a big word for me. The cap still curves out until we get to about maybe a third of the way down the clip. Then we go straight. You can feel the transition, and we go straight down, all the way down to the bottom of the cap. The cap itself, no writing on it, but we've still got these silver blobs. I quite like that. I know it's not something I would normally go for, these sparkly type pens, but it doesn't look too bad. It's not too in your face. There's a step down from the bottom of the cap. You know it's there because if you're looking for it and feeling for it, you can feel it. You can definitely see it, but it's not too sharp. The body, we then have the same width all the way down to about 3/4 of the way down the body. Then we start to slowly taper in, and at the end we've got another curve to the domed end again. Let's take the cap off so it comes off in half. 1, 1.5, 2, about 2 1/4 turns. Not perfect, but I'm not going to grumble about that. Then that reveals this Majohn nib. So it's a fairly standard Majohn nib. Gold coloured. The top we've got, well, I always think it looks like a mountain to me. Underneath that we've got a logo. Then we've got Majohn, and in a circle the letter F. I've had this pen quite a while, so it was before the swap over to Majohn. So as I'm talking about this pen, you may find me swapping between Majohn and Majohn. From the nib, that comes into the section. Section is black, so it's matching the colour of the rest of the pen. It's not very long. That's one of the things I find. But for me, it's perfect. I hold my pens down near the bottom. There's a little tiny lip at the bottom here, hardly noticeable, but I hold my pens down near the bottom and my finger and my thumb sits perfectly on this section. If you hold your pen up higher, you may find here where we've got these threads, they may dig into your finger a bit. I can certainly feel them there, but I'll say for me, I hold it down here. Unposted, I find this pen is quite nice. It's comfortable to use. It will post, sort of. As in, it will go on, but it doesn't secure on. So you could have it on, and as long as you're writing like this, you know, it's not too bad, but as soon as you tip your pen, off that comes. The body, that comes off. And there we've got a Majohn or Majohn converter, metal fittings. The converter came with the pen. So let's pop that back together. all in all, not a bad little package. I do have concerns. I wouldn't take this pen to a business meeting. As I say, at home, I love seeing these blobs of sparkly. Even in the coffee shop, I'd get away with it. But if I was sat in a professional setting, I don't know, I'd be a bit dubious about using this pen there. Let's swap over, take a look at some size comparisons. First two pens, my standard ones, Pilot Metropolitan, Lamy Safari. The M8, definitely longer, but only by a teeniest little bit. Let's take the caps off. With the caps off, we've got a slightly different story. The M8, just a teeny bit shorter than the Lamy Safari. And by that, I'm talking maybe 1 or 2 millimeters, very small. If it wasn't for the fact that I'm looking for it, I wouldn't notice. Now I've got all these pens lined up here by the bottom of the nib. The Metropolitan, definitely a lot smaller, isn't it? I'm not going to show these posted. The M8 doesn't post very well, so it's not something I would ever use posted. So let's jump on and look at some pens in roughly the same price range. The pens I brought in a Hongdian, The Light of Hope. That was 23 Aussie dollars when I bought it. The Majohn or the Moonman M8, 23 Aussie dollars. And the Kaigaloo 316, when I bought that it was 24 Aussie dollars. Unposted, all three of these very much of a similar length, apart from when I move that up, and then the Light of Hope becomes a little bit shorter than the M8. The Light of Hope, I like the blue nib on that. It matches the body. This is part of the Black Forest series of pens. I believe that's a number 5 nib, whereas on the Kaigaloo and the M8, they're both number 6 nibs. So in terms of the pens that I've got and the nibs that I've got, I could easily swap the nibs on the M8 and the Kaigaloo. Not that I intend to, because I actually find the nibs are quite nice, but it's nice having an option to be able to do that. And it certainly lets you swap around and change nibs so you can get different experiences. So if I get fed up with the fine nib on this M8, I can maybe pop in a Kaigaloo long knife or some other type of speciality nib. Let's pop the caps on these. With the caps on, the M8 slightly longer than the Kaigaloo, and again slightly longer than the Light of Hope, but we're only talking again a couple of millimeters, so not that much longer. Let's swap over and fetch in the rule of measuring. Here we've got the rule of measuring. Let's fetch in the pen. So first, with the cap on, 14.2 centimeters. Uncapped, 12.6 centimeters. Not going to measure it posted. The width of the body, at its widest point, which is about here, that was 1.38 centimeters. The width of the cap, again at its widest point down near the bottom, 1.55 centimeters. The section doesn't change much in terms of its width. It goes from 1.10 up to 1.16. Hardly noticeable in terms of the change, but if you're looking at it, you can see something, and it's ever so slight. Let's swap over and fetch in the scales of weigh-in. Here we've got the scales of weigh-in, the full pen, 31 grams. Body only, remember there is some ink in here, 18 grams. The cap, 13 grams. So not a heavy pen, but also not a light pen. It's actually quite nice. I like the weight of this pen. In one respect, I know I've already said this, if I could get this in pure black, that actually might be quite nice. Let's move this out of the way and fetch in the notepad of testing. Here's the notepad of testing. This is an A4 notebook, Ayush paper, 100 GSM paper. Very nice. The paper, I like this paper. It's got a slight texture to it. I can feel it as I run my fingers down. And to me, it helps fetching out really all the character in the ink. So let's do some writing. We've got here, I'm going to call it a Majohn M8. It's got a fine Moonman nib. I think this nib might be tending a little bit towards the medium side of fine. Price wise, as I said, was 23 Aussie dollars. The ink in here is by Noodlers. This is an ink sample I've got. I've actually used it up now. And it's North African Violet. Quite a nice ink, this. I quite like the purple colour. Let's look at drying times. So we go immediate. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. 1 minute. Still smudging, but only a teeny little bit, so there's no real value in a 2-minute test. I'm going to move the mic down to the page so you can hear the pen writing. I think there's some really nice feedback on that. I like a bit of feedback in my pens, and this is really nice. It's not scratchy. It feels not smooth. There is some tactileness to it. A lot of audible feedback. Remember, this paper is textured, but I get that feedback no matter what paper I'm using. Let's look for line variation. So this is with no pressure. If I add some pressure, we're getting a wider line. Could be there because there's more ink, but I do see the tine splaying ever so slightly. That's no pressure, with pressure, none, with, none, with, none, and with. So in here, again, where I've got that pressure, I am seeing the wider line. Very nice. Flow test. Keeps it really well, no issues there at all. One of the things I am noticing with this, hopefully you can see it in my sentence, do get some nice shading coming through at the moment. Looking at that T there, the way we've got the different tones, the A, the top of the G, the T in the L, the I. Certainly in Queen there seems to be quite a lot as well. Really nice. So what are my thoughts and scores for this pen? We'll start with pen looks. It's nice. I like the fact it's black, but then I like the way that this silver is popping out at you. As I've said, I would struggle taking this into a professional setting, but for anything non-professional, as I said, at home in a coffee shop, I'd have no problems taking this pen out and using it. It's nice. It's unusual. I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. Build quality. Again, I had no problems with it. It works. The threads are nice and smooth. They don't seem to catch. 2 1/4 turns to take off. Could be something to hum and haw a little bit about. Feels nice in the hand. We've got the metal fittings. We've got that converter. All works well. I've not had to pull the nib out and clean it. Just to flush through. That's all it needs. I think it's quite well built, so I'm going to give that 8 out of 10. Writing experience, as we've seen here, is nice, got nice feedback. I like the way that we get that. For fetching my Tomoe River paper, 52 GSM Tomoe River paper. I've got that many pads, I sometimes forget what I've got out at any particular time. Not seeing as much shading in here as what I was seeing on that Ayush paper. It's nice. I like the ink. I like purple inks. When I got back into fountain pens now, just over 3 years ago, if anyone would have told me I'd like purple and brown inks, I'd have called them all sorts of funny names. But I find that I really do like them. I say this is the last of the sample that I've got of this. Not sure if I'll buy a bottle of it because I've got a number of other purples, mainly from Diamine, that I really like as well. But it was nice, and I'm calling it here. The ink does remind me of those African violet plants. It writes nice, I've said here, smooth with nice audible feedback. That's something which, again, we've just seen. So for the writing experience, it's a generous fine nib. I'm going to give this 8 out of 10. Ink flow. Well, I've had no issues with the ink flow. As we can see here, performed perfectly well. Before I filmed this video, yes, I had done a little bit of writing to get it going again, but I'd left it about 2 months. I picked the pen up, I put the nib on the paper, it started writing. So no issues with the nib drying out. The ink flow as well, it keeps up. Had no hard starts, no skips. 8 out of 10. Comfort. I think this is a nice pen to use. It fits well in the hand. It doesn't post, so if you like long pens, maybe you need to think about it. Say it will go on there, but it's not secure at all. Oh, I pushed on a bit harder, but it's still wobbly. I find this really comfortable. I hold my pen lower down. If you hold your pen further up, these threads, they may get in the way. They may cause you an issue. But for comfort, 8 out of 10. Value for money. The pen itself, it's not overly exciting. It does what it says on the box. Lets me get ideas out of my head and onto paper in a way that I enjoy. The sparkliness of it, I say that limits my uses. I say I couldn't really take this into that professional environment. Not really a deal maker, not really a deal killer though, is it? I mean, it's still a nice pen. Writes well, feels nice. $23, I think it's actually fairly good value. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. So that means the total score for the Majohn M8 and Noodler's North African Violet comes in at 8 out of 10 after scoring straight 8s all the way across it. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Have you got a Moon Man or a Majohn M8? What are your thoughts on it? How does it work for you? Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.